And good morning everybody, and welcome to today. It is a day of importance, and it is a day that we lay a loved one to rest. It is a day where we gather and tell each other how important Mitchell was to you, and how much you loved him, and how much he loved you. And so today, Mitchell reunites with his beloved wife of 63 years, Beryl. Firstly, my condolences to you all, to Gordon and Julie, to Debbie and Noel, and Duncan and Megan. He's a deeply loved father and father-in-law. To you grandchildren, Ryan and Bevan, Gareth, Natalie, Lachlan, Ellie, Mitchell, Campbell and Ethan. This man of whom you call Granddad. Mitchell is your patriarch, and today you do for him as you did for Beryl on the 30th of October 2020, where you gently gift him the role of ancestor. I look at the photo on the back of the service sheet, and in my mind, that is maybe just about their reunion. If you've been a friend who has sent a letter of support, or maybe you've done some baking, maybe you came with a meal, maybe you even simply held Mitchell in your thoughts. His family appreciated that so very much, and I think we really are blessed to have such a strong community and a strong sense of community in this area, and at these times it really does shine through. So a couple of housekeeping notes, if you please. There were some pages that some of you have signed when you came in. They are for a memorial book for later. Maybe think to put a contact number in beside your name if it has been a while since you last caught up with the family. Later, this book will become a tangible part of today when, after the dust has settled and the visitors have gone home, this book reminds Mitch's family that you were here and that your friendship means something. Donations are destined for the South Taranaki Coast Guard. You're welcome to place a donation in the box provided. Now, acknowledgement will only be made if you have recorded your name and your address with your donation. Online donations may also be made, and the slips with the instructions for these are beside the donation box. And please, feel warmly invited to remain with the family for a cup of tea and light refreshment after the service. This time of friendship and coming together over food is actually a time of love, and so it is sincerely hoped that you will stay if you can. Now, switch your phone to airplane mode, silent, so that it does not ring through the service. If it does make a noise, you will be welcome to make a substantial donation to the Coast Guard Fund. Mitchell's life was one that centred around farming right from the outset. His parents, Tui and Mitchell Sr., had immigrated from the United Kingdom. They'd settled in Hawera after they'd married, and that was when Mitchell Jr. was born and raised in a manner that he grew up as a farmer. He learned to respect the land, the environment, the animals, the people, his community and beyond. You could repurpose anything and everything, usually with number 8 wire. Mitchell was so very community and family orientated. His family and their well-being was so important to him. It's not something he would articulate service and time were appreciated at home and in the wider community. He loved fishing and loved sharing the catch with the rest of the community just as much. Haymaking was a community event where Mitchell took the baler position every time, and he drove the tractor wearing his captain's hat, which you can see down here, and he was always smiling and chatting and simply enjoying the labour and camaraderie. Mitchell had a cheeky streak and a sense of fun. People were drawn to the warmth and a glint in his eye. At this point, I'd like to invite Gordon and Duncan forward. They'll give us so much more insight into Mitchell and help us to get to know even more.
Thank you, Kelly. Hello, everyone. Once again, what can I say? This has been quite a roller coaster ride, being so close to Mum's passing just 8 months ago. Thank you for gathering here today. We've been very comforted by your messages of support and sympathy at this sad time. Dad was born on the 12th of January 1936 in Whanaroa to parents Mitchell Sr. and Julie Fraser. He was the third arrival to the family. He had 2 older sisters, Gloria and Jane, to whom he held very dear, and a younger brother, Harold. Dad was just 2 years old when the family moved to the farm at Kuia, and it was often being mentioned he would be tucked up in a butter crate at the shed while his parents milked the cows. He attended Kuia Primary School and then on to the Hara Technical School where he enjoyed engineering classes. He was a very good swimmer and a keen tennis player, although this often had him grumbling about having to mow the huge lawn and tennis court around their house. A bushman, I suspect. He was also able to knock out a few tunes on his piano, accordion and a mouth organ. During these early years, the whole family were often working together on the farm, and there was an early expectation that Dad would eventually take over the running of the farm. A break came on the farm when Dad was called up for an Air Force compulsory military training in Hobsonville. He fondly remembered these times and the friends he made. He had planned to join the Air Force, but expansion on the farm back home shelved this idea. I'm sure influenced my father to make sure his own children had the opportunity to choose their own careers, or at the very least get a trade first before going farming. For me, I'm so grateful in many ways that he and Mum encouraged this. Although he ended up with me back home after 4 years away, whether he liked it or not. But I'm sure he would agree we ended up creating an amazing 42-year family farming partnership. Dad was very resourceful and he had the ability to put his hands to most things, and he wasn't afraid to give it a go. Whenever it was building, light engineering, fixing machinery or repairing engines. We heard a story when he was younger. He was fed up with cutting boxthorn hedges with a slasher. So he attempted to make his own motorised hedge cutter with an Austin 7 engine and gearbox, with drive axles and pulleys and belts to which a cutting blade was attached. Apparently he used to stand on top of this thing changing gears to get the blade up to speed. I can't imagine health and safety even featured. Dad's official title on the farm was #1 bulldozer driver and hay bale operator. Often these machines needed fixing, so he and his brother-in-law Alex would often be found in the workshop making repairs and modifications. Dad really enjoyed and appreciated these times. He loved working and sharing these experiences with extended family and friends, especially the social side. He enjoyed being Barry's apprentice when they were building Mum and Dad's house. He was always there for the family as well, to assist armed with hammer and nails, providing those all-important power tools for any building project we needed done. As for Barry, I think he left their house job months later a few kilos heavier due to Mummy's morning and afternoon teas. Getting back to Dad's younger days, he had a bit of a hankering for fast cars and had a lead foot at times. He accumulated a few speeding tickets in his lifetime. He once recalled in his early days he was in a car with his neighbour Harold, and he ended up sliding down a street in Hara upside down on the car's roof. Eventually the car stopped, battery acid was dripping down onto their clothes, and they walked away with quite a dent in their pride, and they had some explaining to do. As you all know, one of Dad's big joys was sea fishing. He was a bit of a pioneer, launching small boats off the beach at Makuia and with the old David Brown farm tractor. Fraser family have fond memories of these early days as kids down at the beach, joining in the fun with other local families whose fathers were often Dad's fishing crew. Dad had no shortage of crew, local farmers, factory workers, teachers, friends, family and relatives. Many of Dad's fishing buddies become his closest friends. He so enjoyed their company, and on reflection, I think fishing often came second. During the early years when I came home, my friends and I would go fishing with Dad, and in the later years my friends often talked about these trips, catching cod, snapper, Dad's ability to find the fishing spots using only landmarks, no GPS, and of course negotiating the legendary party of Bath. In finishing for me, Dad had a long and full life, 63 years with his best ever friend Mum, the love of his life. He was always there for us, and he had a strong sense of family values. He was unassuming, kind, and enjoyed a really good belly laugh with friends. I will miss those regular farm updates with him, as he always remained very much part of the farm. Before I go on to Duncan, I will finish with one of Dad's later in life go-to one-liners, which he often used when greeting us, and this will resonate with the family, I'm sure. What's happening?
Okay, number 2. First and foremost, thank you everyone for coming here today and celebrating Dad's life, especially for those who have travelled afar. It took a while, but once I finally plucked up enough courage to sit down and write this, I'd come to the realisation that Dad had lived a very full and eventful life. Starting from when he was very young, having been thrust into the farming world, then following on for eventful youth, meeting Mum at the local dance, starting a family and watching them grow. Having a successful business and passing it on, travelling around the world with Mum, because they were extensive travellers and had years of fun together. They also together became granddad and grandma and spent a lot of time with their grandchildren. Dad's life revolved around farming, family, but one of his underlying passions was his love of machinery, as already touched on. Whether it be planes, bikes, boats, bulldozers, or fast cars, all of these particular stories have their own events. I would like this opportunity to touch on a few of the lighter moments in Dad's life. I will start and focus on the farm. As you can imagine, Dad had a succession of farm bikes. He always was at pains to tell us, be safe, don't be silly, you're going to get hurt. But true to good old Leadfoot Midge, he showed us how it was to be done. In this particular instance, not. Dad happened to be chasing a cow across the paddock as I stood by watching in amusement. Man, he could handle a bike. With the power wound on, an interesting choice of encouraging words directed at the offending animal, Dad managed to nearly push the beast through the gate. Alas, the cow had other plans, so Dad dialed on the gas again, popped a wheelie, and chase was on again. Unfortunately, there was a minor miscalculation. A swamp. Cow stopped, Dad didn't. Very impressive jump, I must add, culminating in bearing the bike up to the handlebars, Dad rolling off the bike quite slowly across the lake. There was some minor damage to the tank, I believe, 2 small dents. This caused Dad to change his style of walking for a couple of weeks. It resembled a very famous Hollywood actor, John Wayne, I believe. So, cow 1, Dad 0. Funnily enough though, I do think that particular cow might have ended up in the works. Can't think why, but I think Dad might have won that one. Dad also loved everything about boats. He loved fishing, he loved sailing, he loved water skiing. As kids, most of the memorable family moments that we had were our water ski trips to Lake Kerry. One would make up an awesome picnic to feed the masses and the ducks, of course. For those who didn't know about the lake, it was surrounded by rapu and bushes. After everyone had a good old turn skiing, we'd throw the old fella over the side, we'd strap on some skis. Dad had an interesting style, very similar to that John Wayne character. So, to Dad's testament, he was always up to it. At that point in time, Dad thought teenagers were responsible enough to drive the boat. How foolish was he? So Dad popped out of the water, no worries at all. Whilst on board, we were laughing hysterically at his unique skiing style, so much so that we forgot the need to turn. Poor old fella found out firsthand what fighter pilots go through. The amount of G-force he must have encountered was impressive after we executed an emergency turn. All I could see was most of the vegetation being mowed down, but very unimpressed, somewhat panicking father with eyes on stilts. He popped out of the vegetation, legs wider than they were before, which was quite impressive. Bits of rapu hanging off his body. This just shows the tenacity of our father and not letting his kids get the better of him. Another boating moment that I'll add in there, and this happened to be when we were overseas. This is when we were in Turkey, and for all of Dad's cheekiness, he was quite a shy man. And on our first day of sailing, we ended up arriving in an isolated island, Taverna, which was run by a very good friend of mine. As we managed to moor up, my friend Yusuf came running down the quay to meet my parents. He grabbed my mum, lifted her up, gave her a kiss on both cheeks, and then proceeded to do the same to Dad. I have never seen a man go so light, so fast, backpedal to the end of the quay until his tippy toes were the only things keeping him out of the water. But even in doing that, he still got a kiss on both cheeks. I'm sure Dad would have seen Mum and I rolling around in laughter for sheer horror that he was being kissed by a hairy bloke. Dad loved everything to do with aviation as well, and any opportunity he would take. There was also a chance for him to jump off a mountain on a paraglider and land on the beach. And when we gave him it, it was his first in line to take it. He also managed to have a flight in a World War II fighter plane, which as a family we all banded together and organised for him as a Christmas present. He didn't stop smiling for days on both occasions. He certainly had an adventurous spirit, which we all loved. If I was to sum up Dad's personality, it would be that he was kind, caring, generous, loving soul, and you could see whenever family and friends were around. It was then we could see Dad's true character come to life. He would be forever smiling, animated and chatty to everyone he mixed in with lashings of cheeky humour as well. Christmases at home were always special. Mum would be cooking up a storm in the kitchen and Dad would be parked up at the dining table, eating the dibbles and watching all the goings on. The grandchildren would cycle through on their way to the pool to the inevitable water fight, or to the outside playing the lawn games, which still to this day I don't know the name of. So. Dad would catch their eye, chat to them all. He was always interested in what we were all doing and what was happening in our lives. Even if it was just listening, at the end he would be sitting there in fits of laughter, enjoying the antics going on outside. But he was always happy to spend time with us all. The joys of getting older, glasses. Together, Mum and Dad, they gave us a gift of a significant importance. Significant importance of family, which we embrace and model on our own lives. This was a wonderful tribute and testament to the special parents that they both were. This was but one of the many occasions, whether it be Christmas, birthdays, Easter, haymaking, where Dad and Mum showed their love of family and friends. Together they make any day at home special. Dad, I will miss our days sitting through endless World War II movies. Poor old Mum, she had to sustain that as well, sitting in the background rolling her eyes. Your ability to make something out of nothing, and tinkering around in the workshop, air shows and family trips away. I could recount many stories about Dad, but closing, he was a kind, caring, cheeky, loving husband, father, grandfather, uncle and friend. The truth of the matter is that Dad didn't pass away from old age, but from a broken heart. As a family, we got to see this firsthand. His daily ritual was to get up, have breakfast, go and visit Mum at the graveside, have a good old natter, and then head back home. I know he loved us all dearly, but he had lost his soulmate, and this was a cross he could not bear. We love you so much, Dad, but we know you are now with Mum, and that is where you wanted to be from the day that Mum left us. You're at peace now, forever in our hearts and minds. We will love you always, our cheeky, fun-loving, mischievous Dad and Granddad.
Don't give them a round of applause, everybody. And because I'm really good at technology, we missed a little bit of Gordon's. Did everyone hear him, or would you like a second repeat? he's looking a little grim on that comment. So my apologies if you couldn't hear before. I hope that that's been rectified now. Mitchell loved being a granddad. Now, where's Braden? Yeah? Hand up. I missed you before, and so we'll just say that you're the favourite. How's that? Okay? So my apologies, Braden. But Mitchell did love watching the grandkids running around and jumping in the pool in summer, and whilst him and Beryl sat laughing together watching the antics of kids. For Mitchell, this was just pure family time and one of his life's greatest pleasures. Now, Ryan, Gareth and Natalie have some perspective to share here, so I'd like to invite you forward.
This brings back memories of manners, which is sweet.
It didn't like it, did it?
Try that. Not the feedback. Alright, so good morning everyone, and thank you for coming here today to help us remember and celebrate the life and memories of our grandfather. So, upon the passing of a loved one, everyone goes into a state of reflection, and over the past few days we've had a lot of discussions about the lessons, in parentheses, and legacies that Grandad left for his grandchildren, whether he's aware of them or not. Grandad, just like all other Frasers, you bestowed upon us an insatiable love of chocolate, biscuits and whiskey for the most part of the family. If Debble Gordon had eaten all of our chocolate supply at home, we knew that without fail, you and Nana had a stockpile ready like a COVID lockdown could happen at any time. Through this, you taught us the art of sharing. Come every Easter or Christmas, the treats Nana had purchased for the grandkids would magically go missing and we'd have to make do with what you, the rats, had left behind for the grandchildren. You taught us speed and dexterity, which helped us with our sports during school. Just like for most rural kids helping out on the farm, we constantly had to be quick on our toes, getting our limbs out of the way as you put all of your weight behind the ram lever on the firewood splitter, or you'd come barreling in on the last few sweeps that you'd commandeered after baling at the end of haymaking, leaving us wondering if your legs were even long enough to reach the brakes. Patience was something every family member learned from you, mainly due to your stubbornness and resistance to using your hearing aid in your later years. Conversations would end with us constantly repeating ourselves at an ever-increasing volume, or you just smiling and nodding, leaving us uncertain if you'd even heard a word we said. But I know the above examples have been somewhat jokes at your expense. But this brings me to the hardest part. The most important lesson that you taught us was to not take life too seriously. And going off Dad's speech, I think it was perfect to have you designated as our health and safety inspector during our current house renovations. Your wit and sense of humour will be sorely missed, and what you'll be remembered most for. A smart-ass comment quickly followed by that cheeky grin, a twinkle and a wink in the eye, and a self-satisfied chuckle is something we'll miss the most. We love you and Nana, and always will.
And that microphone lowered slightly. Alright, so Mitchell, he was more than just our granddad. He was a great mate who had an immense love for life and a family. So he would just absolutely light up when he saw us grandkids. Bowling poor Nana out of the way, as usual, with a giant bear hug followed by a chinky wink and his trademark saying, "Don't do anything I wouldn't do."
So as you all heard today, Granddad had a bit of a lead foot in his younger years, and I vividly remember that even bumper cars were no exception. I remember at a time at the AMP show, hooning around with Granddad, when before long he decided to ram into the back of the car in front, and a woman's glasses just went flying, and a yell from the poor lady who had lost them. Granddad had a good cackle at that, and I remember thinking what a cheeky granddad I had. So he was always up to some sort of mischief and fun, and was happy as seeing the people he loved together and enjoying themselves. 4 years ago we took a holiday to Port Douglas, which was one of Nana and Granddad's favourite places, and we always heard fond memories of their adventures there. So it meant a lot to all of us grandkids that we could visit with them, and we're so grateful for those memories. Granddad has been very fortunate to have experienced life with his soulmate, and we have all been very lucky to have witnessed that kind of love. So rest easy, my old mate, and give Nana a big hug and a kiss from us.
There's not a lot that I could actually say on top of the other two, as I share those feelings and sentiments with all my heart. And I think it says a lot that a lot of the points that both Dad and Duncan talked about and the rest of us, they all sort of match up. I always admired how committed Granddad was to what he perceived were his duties around the farm and as a grandparent. Granddad took his de facto role in haymaking and driving the baler very seriously. He was there every year with his dirty and ratty captain's hat on, not the nice clean one with the fishing rod there. Plaid farm shirt, the sleeves were all up, and by the time I was around, it wasn't so much Alec, but it was more he'd work with Dad to get the first baler functional. Then when that would fail, as it did every single year, the backup would come out too, and then they'd get it working, and Granddad would ride the clutch so hard that you could cook an egg on the gearbox by the time it was finished. Granddad always had the swimming pool ready every Christmas and for haymaking, and he instilled this enjoyment in swimming and water sports and fishing through his children and his grandchildren. Growing up every year, we looked forward to going out to Radarangi or Ratakiri for a hoon on the tube. If we ever had a problem growing up, and Mum and Dad were busy on the farm, we always knew that Granddad was just down the road and ready to help out at a moment's notice. There was a time where we had a cantankerous pet goat, Beazle, slipped her leash and started terrorising us kids. We were all barely in primary school. Granddad came running down the road and literally grabbed the goat by its horns to keep us safe, and then to reassure us and make us laugh, he used the horns like a steering wheel and made car noises. Seems most of us inherited your love of chocolate and whiskey, Granddad, but at least none of us think that the Joes taste like antiseptic. Thanks.
Yes, he's quite wrong about that, isn't he? Yeah, Fejos are good. Yeah. No, cousins, and as we grow up, they're our first childhood friends, and today, Gail, we acknowledge your family connection here, even though you're in England. And that distance did not change the connection that you and Mitchell have for each other, so thank you for your message, and I'll share that now. As cousins, Mitch and I got to know each other quite late in life, but we hit it off straight away. Going over to New Zealand twice before I moved there, he and Beryl were great. Nothing was too much bother. Over the years I was in New Zealand, we became close, and when I came back to England, I did not expect to hear from him much, but he would ring me every few weeks to see how I was, and he became more like a big brother than a cousin. Mitchell, I'll miss you terribly. My whole family all have wonderful memories of time spent with you and Beryl on the farm. Farewell, cuz. Love and miss you, Gail. Now, from a nephew's position, I'd like to invite David Lawson-Ford to share from a nephew's perspective and that of Mitchell's brothers and sisters. So thank you.
Well, it's a pretty big event in our family to lose. He used to call himself the last Mohican because he was the last one standing. We all knew it and we were so close to him. So yeah, pretty tough. Well, my mum's story, also his sister, and he used to tell me some of the stories about the farm growing up together. And just loved it, they enjoyed being on the farm. Apparently one night, it was Doreen and Sister Joan were actually in their bedroom, and they heard some noise outside. They didn't know what it was. The next minute, here's Mitchell with a gas mask on, jumps up in the window, scares the hell out of them. So that was really cool. And there was another time, if you knew my mum, you knew that she was the oldest in the family, so she was quite a strong woman. And I figured that a bit of stuff used to go on in that house when they were younger. Mum used to be quite strong, and Mitchell being as strong as he was used to go on. Well, apparently one night something obviously went happen in the house. Well, there's Doreen and Joan hopping into bed. Well, Mitchell had got pine needles in their bed. so I gotcha. So there was obviously a lot of humour at that age going on. Yes. So I know Mum, was growing up on the farm was great. And then I was having a thing, I was thinking this week, it's really not reflecting about when's the first time I met Mitchell? Well, I don't actually know. He was just this amazing uncle and auntie that were just there. And they've been there in all my life. So gentle. Just an amazing couple. I remember as I got a bit older, then I started to appreciate them more because the teenage years, you disappear, and what do they know? Parents as well, so I disappeared. And then I lived in Wellington, and quite often I'd pop in on the way through, and there would be amazing, come with a cup of tea and great food and just good company. And it was always very generous. So I always admired my uncle and auntie so much about how it was always so welcome, always felt welcome in their home. And I remember at a young age, I was having the Christmas dinners. Oh my God. The tables were just laden with food. All the kids would be there. Just so excited to be there. Well, as I said, it was really exciting. Joan and Beryl and Dora all in the kitchen making all the food, and me sitting at the table, drinking beer and talking about things. But they always get excited because then my grandparents, Mitchell and Tui, because we all got presents, so we're all so excited. It's amazing Christmas dinners on the farm actually. I was just so happy. And then guess what? Get outside. So we used to go outside and play with my cousins and stuff. And yeah, it was a really nice time. And then I remember about fishing. Actually, my dad had a boat as well, and I think I was about 8 or 9. And we go down to Makuya and tracked us down this steep bank with the boats and launch them off the beach. Quite exciting at that age. And we go out there and we'd catch the fish, nice fish. The snappers were that big. And really nice. And then coming in was exciting. We had to get through the waves and just launch them up on the beach. And I remember that just so neat to go back to the house and eat this beautiful fresh fish, and just such a lovely environment to have those memories. And I know that, it's just, I was having a moment. Yeah, so they were just fond memories, spending time with them. And I've been thinking a bit more about Mitchell and Beryl, and not just a reflection on what a successful life they've had together. Just amazing. You know, they grew up, and all their kids on their farm grew up, and now they've got the grandchildren, and how much they loved them as well. And just felt welcome every time we went round. And again, I love this humour. Quite often I'd sit down, a cup of tea, and sort out the government. Didn't work it out. It was just so lovely. So, just a big hole I feel in my family now is that generation is now past. And I'm so pleased, so proud to be part of this family. And yeah, just love Uncle Mitchell and Auntie Beryl, and yeah, thank you.
Now, who here has a cell phone on them? Raise your hands. maybe 5 of you. There'll be more. But they normally nowadays, you know, technology, those phones can take pictures. But who here remembers a box brownie? Now you're starting to Now, do you remember your film of 12 or 24 or 36 shots that you took into the photographers, and you would have to wait maybe 2 weeks to see how the film was developed, and there certainly wasn't a delete mode on there because someone had their eyes closed. But it was a real thrill to receive a packet of photos and then look through what the last couple of months had in store for you. The photos become more and more precious each year because they are a return ticket to yesterday's memories. And so today we've got a highlight reel of Mitchell's life, which has been curated to show you the very best of his life and his family's memories. This is Mitchell's eulogy in photos. Thank you, Doc. us share in the Lord's Prayer. The words are on your service sheet. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The other day I was trawling through the internet trying to find some type of reading that would resonate on how Mitchell has lived his life. And in the end I found a piece of writing which I paraphrased, but I also thought that maybe Mitchell would have resonated with this writing, as many of you who have a rural background hopefully will as well. Farming consists of hard work and honest sweat, which are also the building blocks of a person's character. Farming nurtures the family ties that make life rich in ways that money can't buy. Children from farming backgrounds learn values that will last a lifetime and can be learned in no other way. Farming provides education for life, and no other occupation teaches so much about birth, growth, maturity and death in such a variety of ways. The best things in life are free: the splendour of a sunrise, the rapture of an opening green haddock in spring, the fresh smell of hay that has just been harvested. And so when a man grows old and sums up his days, he is able to recall with pride his respect for the land and his high ideals. Not a moment of life is wasted on a farm, especially when he has a loving family, good friends, land, produce and animals. And so farming provides a strong community of both support and friendship. Mitchell, your time in this life has ended. And thank you for the happiness and the warmth that you've brought into everyone's lives as a father, a granddad, a friend. Thank you for your love of community and family, your smile, your laughter, your cheeky grin, your joy at the love everyone has shared as a family. All the things that have made you the person that has been so very loved. We know your heart was heavy when Beryl passed away, and families' hearts are the same. But take comfort in knowing that you're with her now. You can see you both fishing and gardening and watching the first calves come in spring, Beryl doing needlecraft and sitting close to you. Now with love and tenderness, but also with sadness and gratitude, we return your body to the elements from which it came, knowing that you will live on in our hearts and memories, and that our lives will be forever blessed because you loved us and we loved you. May you always and now be at peace. Please stand, everyone. So the cares of the world concern me no longer, and I have completed this life. My work is done, and the children of my heart have grown. My family is well on their journey and happy and healthy in their pursuits. I have loved much and well. To those I leave behind, I hope I will remain in your hearts, as you will in mine. Thank you for taking such good care of me, and all of you who have been my friends, thank you for teaching me about life and about love. Go in peace and in blessings for the day. And so keep the honest moments close to your heart. also of what a gift it is to have a human life. And if you look a little closer, there's always something to be grateful for. True gratitude isn't ignoring the darkness, but participating